Now, it's fairly obvious, and I believe it's very fair to say, that the political winds have shifted a lot in regards to DEI, at least at the national level, where you basically have DEI federal programs being systematically dismantled across the entirety of the government. But now, that very same shift is happening at the local level as well. Case in point, over in California, a federal judge has ruled that a community college professor cannot be compelled to embed DEIA practices into his classroom against his will. For your reference, DEIA stands for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. And so the backstory here is that the man up on your screen is named Professor Damon Johnson. He teaches history over at Bakersfield College in Bakersfield, California, and at that college, he is the faculty lead for the Renegade Institute for Liberty. And on their website, here's how that institute describes itself. Quote, "The Renegade Institute for Liberty is a coalition of Bakersfield College faculty dedicated to the pursuit of free speech, open inquiry, critical thinking to advance American ideals within the broader Western tradition of meritocracy, individual agency, civic virtue, liberty of conscience, and free markets." And what happened back in the year 2023 was that the Board of Governors for all of California's community colleges, they adopted a new DEI requirement. Essentially, what they did was that they amended Title V of the California Code of Regulations to make it mandatory for community college professors across the whole state to incorporate DEIA principles into their course outlines, into the curriculum for every one of their courses, into their teaching principles, and DEI principles had to be used during faculty evaluations as well as during reviews for tenure. This then created the following situation within the state of California. Quote, "The DEIA rules require faculty members to teach in a manner reflecting DEIA and anti-racist principles and promote a race-conscious and intersectional lens. Professors must also employ a social justice lens and a collectivism perspective rather than an individualist perspective. The government warns professors not to weaponize academic freedom and academic integrity as tools to impede equity or inflict curricular trauma on our students. Each of California's community college districts must now evaluate faculty performance based on faculty members' compliance with these DEIA rules. If professors want to keep their jobs, each of California's community colleges require that faculty incorporate the requirements into lesson plans and lectures." Now, if hearing that, it sounds to you like the state compelling professors to speak in a certain way, to think in a certain way, and or to promote a certain ideological viewpoint, you're not alone. Several lawsuits were filed saying basically exactly that the state of California was violating the First Amendment rights of these professors by compelling their speech. All right, just a pause here for a super quick moment. I'd like to introduce today's sponsor, which is Shenyun Performing Arts. It is the preeminent, best Chinese classical dance performance in the whole world. But funny enough, they're actually based right here in the US, and they're very much not allowed to perform in China. Part of the show, it exposes the crimes of the Chinese Communist Party, and so ironically, they can't even go there. But regardless, the show is great. I've personally seen it several times, and the athleticism, the artistry, the stories are phenomenal. Some are touching, some of them are funny, a lot of them are thought-provoking. And you're not really allowed to film in the show, but basically, if I can describe it, it looks exactly like the commercials. Beautiful colors, a full orchestra right there in the theater. Also, they have this screen in the back that's perfectly timed with the dancers, so they sometimes jump in and out of the screen to tell a story, which is really cool. But the best part, at least to me, is that it was super uplifting. I felt like every time I watched it and I left the theater, I was a slightly different person than when I came in. Most shows nowadays are really subversive, and they usually sneak in some communist elements here or there. But Shenyun, they really showcase traditional culture. And even though it's Chinese traditional culture, I feel like it probably resonates with everyone. So check it out. They have shows coming up in over 100 cities: Pittsburgh, St. Louis, New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Seattle, Sacramento, Boston, Portland, Oregon, Portland, Maine, and pretty much everywhere else in between. And the best part is that for our viewers, they're offering a special deal. Just buy your tickets over on the Shenyun website and use promo code ROMAN26 to avoid paying both the ticketing fee as well as the facility fee. That's again promo code ROMAN26. I'll also throw a link to their website and all the cities you can find. It'll be down in the description box below. And it took a while. The consolidated case bounced around the court system for roughly 3 years because the state was basically trying to dismiss it altogether. But last year, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, they said that Professor Johnson and his cohorts could continue their lawsuit even over the objections of the college district, which was a small victory, but it allowed them to basically have their day in court. And then, just a month ago, a federal judge sided with Professor Johnson, issuing a preliminary injunction in his favor. Quote, Judge Sheriff agreed with that concern and granted on February 20th Johnson's motion for a preliminary injunction that blocks college leaders from investigating, disciplining, or terminating the history professor based on any of his speech in the classroom, his scholarship, or as a private citizen. And here was specifically what part of that court order written by Judge Kirk Sheriff said, quote, Johnson alleges that the DEIA regulations compel his speech and discriminate against his viewpoint in violation of the First Amendment. He alleges that he fears either being compelled to express a viewpoint with which he disagrees or being punished if he continues to refuse to express the defendant's desired viewpoint or if he expresses his contrary views. The board has articulated only a general interest in enforcing the state's DEIA regulations without identifying any specific concerns with Johnson's intended speech. That general interest does not outweigh Johnson's First Amendment right not to be sanctioned for having a contrary viewpoint on DEI matters or his right not to be compelled to speak in support of the state's views on DEIA matters. And therefore, after a nearly 3-year-long legal battle, the judge in the case ruled that the college may not investigate, discipline, and or terminate Professor Johnson based on any of his speech in the classroom in regards to DEIA, even if he comes out vehemently against it. In short, the judge ruled that the First Amendment forbids the state of California from demanding community college professors have to conform their speech to some official government ideology, including some so-called anti-racist ideology. However, in that very same ruling, the judge also found that the community college board, they can require the professor to attend a mandatory DEI training, since basically that's treated the same as a form of job training. It's only that they can't compel that professor to believe the training and or force him to say that he believes it. Now, the ruling is a victory for the professor, but I should mention it is a temporary victory. Since it came in the form of a preliminary injunction, it stands while the case itself is still active and continues to play itself out in court. Regardless, though, if you'd like to read the full story of this professor, the rule from the Community College Board of Governors, and or this most recent ruling from the court, from the judge, I'll throw all those links down into the description box below, which is that same description box right below those like and subscribe buttons, both of which I hope you smash, having this video reach ever more people via the algorithm. And then also leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with these DEIA principles? Do you think that they're an overcorrection from, let's say, the time of extreme racism in the country and that they should be enforced? Or do you believe that they basically handcuff professors and make them say what the state wants? And even if you agree with DEIA now, that kind of precedent can force the state, force professors to have the viewpoint of the state at a later time for something maybe you don't agree with later, so it's a bad precedent. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to read them, and I will read them tonight after the episode airs, as well as into the week. And then, until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed, and most importantly, stay free.